Danny and I had a film date. We haven't had one of those in a while, actually. We've been seeing our movies separately. But we took a
Who
little...
you been seeing your movies with?
I just go alone. And I go to empty screenings in a Macintosh and just sit there and cry.
Jesus.
And then I come back and just invent a review based on nothing. But anyway, so we took time out of our busy schedules to go see Logan together. Fun comic book film.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? This is directed by James Mangold. It is the 6th. Well, I don't know actually. How many times is it's like the 8th time?
Well,
Hugh
if you
Jackman
include
has played
cameos,
Wolverine?
he's played it 9 times.
9 times, right? So it's like the 9th time poor Hugh Jackman has been forced to play Wolverine, and his 3rd kind of standalone movie, and like what is like one of the most weird, fractured, and incoherent trilogies probably of all time. And the 2nd time James Mangold has directed him because he directed the previous one, The Wolverine, all about him in Japan or whatever. So this is a bit of a departure from all of that. Everyone is sick of all of that nonsense. No one can understand what the hell's going on in the X-Men franchise. So they're stripping it all down, setting it in the future. And Wolverine, he's old. He's got a big grey beard now. He's old and sad. And he's working as a limo driver, earning enough money to look after Professor Charles Xavier, who's a kind of like dementia, old man living in a huge kind of iron drum near the border with Mexico. And in the future, most mutants are gone. They haven't been born in a while, a kind of children of men-esque kind of premise. And then one day, a very young girl mutant called Laura, who's played by Daphne Keane, turns up, and they all have to go on the road together and run away from some evil goons. Here is a clip of Logan at a sort of pit stop on their journey, and he's helping a farmer see off a bunch of nasty hicks.
Evening, Mr. Monson. You understand you're trespassing right now, right?
I have an easement with the previous owner of your property.
Previous being the operative word. Who's this?
Just a guy telling you to get back in your nice truck. Go play okie dickhead somewhere else.
Hey, Carl. It looks like Mr. Monson hires some muscle.
Looks that way.
He's a friend of mine.
Friend with a big mouth.
I hear that a lot.
And you probably hear this, too.
More than I'd like.
And you know the drill. I'm gonna count to 3, and you're gonna start walking away.
I got rights to this one.
1.
I have a lawyer now.
2.
3.
You all right, boss?
You know the drill. Get the hell out of here.
So we didn't enjoy this film very much. I think it's safe to say.
We didn't.
We didn't like
The
it.
hive mind rejected this film.
Yeah, the antibodies came out of the hive mind and said no.
It was sort of the film I thought it was going to be, and then all this critical love came out, and I was like, oh, maybe I've misjudged it. But then I saw it, I was like, no, I called it. It
was bad.
It was bad.
Well, today I rewatched one of the trailers for it. Not the one with the Johnny Cash soundtrack, but one with like a slightly more upbeat one. And the trailer I thought did a really good job of pointing towards what sort of movie it could have been, and kind of the movie that it is sort of thinks that it is or is promising to be. And in an age of increasingly like overblown, epic and hysterical superhero films packed with like endless lore that you have to learn and like all that kind of stuff, the prospect of a film where it's really stripped down and it's character focused and it's in this kind of elegiac mood is definitely an appealing one.
Yeah.
And it's got a very tried and tested, some might say cliched, but certainly solid story arc of this sad old loner learning to find love again or whatever, that kind of thing. You know, like, that's fine. Like, I'm happy to see a movie built around that idea with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. And in a way, he does a very impressive job with this role because he's been directed by tons of different people who have all done the character in different random ways, from the full, like, cartoonish, like, you know, animated series style. He just kind of goes, "Rawr!" and just, like, stabs people, to this sort of tragic figure that the other directors have tried to turn him to. But he always kind of throws himself into the role, like, no matter how shit the stuff he has to do is.
He's really committed to it.
He's really committed to it. And I'm always like, feel like the material is not quite meeting him halfway. But I think just by virtue of having played this part for such a long time, he really inhabits it and he fully owns the role. And he does a really good job in this movie. But basically, all that kind of idea was evoked in the trailer. Like, there's this old Wolverine, you know, like, developing a new bond and stuff against this, like, slightly stark, Western-esque, dusty backdrop. But there's a problem with the film in that it is a bit too over-keen to demonstrate how it's not like your regular superhero films for babies.
No,
this
sir.
is like a grown-up superhero film, and that leads it to basically make some artistic choices which are kind of at odds with the mood suggested by the trailer, which is that it is like lays on the whole like misery and hopelessness and like the grimness of the future extremely heavily, and also really leans into the violence, and also because of the R rating, like everyone swears as well.
Yeah, they do.
So so Wolverine and Professor X are effing and blinding all the time, and like the violence is like particularly nasty and like unpleasant and like wince inducing.
Yeah.
It's a bit like a Western where like, but instead of everyone shooting each other, they like stab each other, and there is so much stabbing in this film. Like
It's a stabby film.
it's so stabby, like to a sort of degree that by the end has become like comical, especially when a lot of it is like both perpetrated by and like on a child. There's like a particularly horrible bit of violence delivered to this little girl like early on in the film that really made me wince in the cinema, and it's like, I get that she's got this sort of same regenerative powers that Wolverine has, so you know she's gonna be okay, but it's still like, what the fuck? Like, you know, in a way that doesn't make you go like, wow, this movie means serious business, but it's just like, what the hell you like, why would you do it like that? Like, that's just unnecessarily grotesque. So the basic story outline is taken from this Mark Millar comic called Old Man Logan, which is about an aging Wolverine who goes on a road trip in a kind of post-apocalyptic United States. And basically everything else about the story is different. But I think the film shares a certain sensibility with Mark Millar and also with the films of Matthew Vaughn, who's adapted some of Mark Millar's works before, which is that they kind of think that they're like above comic books, like normal comic books, and above like straightforward heroism, and that they need to show you these characters in a new light. And it's a bit like a kind of post 2000 or like millennial twist, 21st century twist on the 80s thing of like psychological realism, where like they decided that, you know, they had to show like this sort of golden age and silver age superheroes in a new light. You know, like Batman has to be this like twisted,
sure,
like psychologically fucked up guy, and all his villains are, you know, insane and stuff, and it's like exploring grown up themes. And that version in this day and age is this kind of like knowing, like it knows how you're expecting these characters to be presented, and it kind of like undercuts the rug, you know, pulls the rug out from under you and like does it in a crazy way. And whereas like Vaughn and Miller are super flip, and this isn't flip at all, for the most part, but it definitely shares this idea that like there's a kind of disdain for heroism and a desire to destroy a comforting fantasy of superheroes. And it's like, I don't want to comfort you, like that's for babies, like that's like dumb culture that's like stupefying the multiplex, you know, and it's like, you know, reducing us all to idiots. And the grown-up thing to do is kind of peel all that away and reveal that there's a reality beneath it. It's like violent and nasty and brutal and pointless. And I don't think that the problem is like that doesn't actually make for a more grown-up story, and that it is in its own way just as adolescent as the most like blandest, you know, superhero film could be.
Yeah.
And it conflicts with the desire to tell this like heartwarming tale about an old man learning to like, you know, who's like rejected the world and is learning to like love again, you know, sometimes in really direct ways. Like Professor X in this film is kind of partly the sort of voice of the world, or like the voice of humanity trying to convince Wolverine to come back from his like lonely brink and like form this bond with a child. But at the same time, he's got this like degenerative brain disease, and half the time he's just sort of yelling random shit, or like having to be taken for a piss, or having like, you know, brain spasms. And it's like, I don't see any like value in portraying the character in that undignified way.
Because before he
so
used
real.
to be slick and super smart, and now he's lost control for reasons.
But it's like it portrays that kind of like Mark Miller, like Matthew Vaughn approach of like not really liking the characters at all. Like if you have any fondness for this character, like I don't want to see him just like being wheeled in to take a fucking piss, you know. And like Patrick Stewart is like good in the role, and he's sort of, you know, obviously having fun with it and everything like that. But it like lessens the power of his purpose as a guy who is like guiding Wolverine back towards humanity. If, like, you know, half of it is about him having Alzheimer's or whatever. And there's also this thing like, I want to avoid going into spoiler territory, but there's like a section in the middle of the movie where it kind of calms down and it sort of relaxes into this more like human mode, a sort of human drama mode, which is a very nice change of pace. And then the way that the film like returns back into the action mode of it is like massively violent and horrible, and like just destroys whatever it was trying to build. You know? And it's like, oh, sorry, you thought you were having fun? No. Turns out reality sucks. Everything is shit. If by the end of the movie he's supposed to have reconnected with humanity, it's a bit like, it's too late, man.
Yeah.
It's like, the world sucks. You've convinced me that everything is fucking horrible. So, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it had just some basic problems that derive from the fact it's so obsessed with theme that story and plot and character just are there to serve a thematic purpose, and so they feel incredibly functional. So the girl character is very ably played by Daphne King. She's got a great scowl. All she has to do is scowl and look menacing.
She's excellent, though.
And
I mean, she's really, really good.
Excellent. But she never escapes being like, I need Wolverine to have some sort of symbol of his younger, more innocent self. It's like, it's literally genetically him, but young.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of very obvious sledgehammer-like metaphors where everything's got a cipher. And the villains are terrible.
Totally without any personality.
And it establishes a road movie thing, but I think it's actually quite a lazy device of like, well, things will slow down, and if I want things to happen, people just turn up and kill people. Yeah, I found it quite a sort of joyless experience.
It's very joyless. It's very tiring. Like, by the end of the film, I was really like, ugh.
I was just relieved.
I was relieved when it ended. Because the stabbing gets completely out of control. And I was already a bit like, had the life sat out of me by the depiction of some like stuff that I really didn't want to see in this kind of movie. Like, people like sort of, there's like a suicide bomb bit, which I don't really like, for no reason. Like, there's a character who like blows themselves up in like a grotesque way, and it's like, that was pointless. And there's a bit where there's some like security footage of you could cut this out if you deem it a spoiler, but where Laura, the young girl, is like self-harming with her with her claws, but like they heal back, and it's like, that's horrible. Like, like why am I watching this like 9-year-old girl cut her own wrist with a fucking blade? It's like, you know, what kind of movie do you think you are? Like, you have not earned that level of horror.
Well, it's that sort of thing of like, you can't deal it. Like, this is the real world. It's like, but it's not the real world.
Yeah,
this is all made up bullshit.
Yes, exactly. And I think that it's like, the whole attitude of the movie is kind of summed up by having bits where he literally holds an X-Men comic and is like, this sucks. This isn't real. It's stupid. This is dumb. You know, but we're in the real world. This isn't real. But it's like, sorry, your film is silly. Like, it's based on a comic book.
Your guy has claws. Your main character has claws. Metal claws that come out of his arms.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's not only bad, but also unpleasant to watch. Like, I don't understand how you could enjoy watching it that much.
Yeah, it's like a DC movie.
Yeah, just like joyless, like soul-sucking misery with no glimpse of
none of the depth that makes that kind of worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it doesn't reward your investment.
It's
it
like
just makes you
like
feel
a teenager
shit.
who's read a lot of Cormac McCarthy and written their own short story.
That's exactly what it is. It's like, it actually sort of like shit Cormac McCarthy is basically what it is. Yeah. So no.
5,000 stars.
5,000
billion stars.
Yeah. 5,000 stars, but out of the amount of actual stars that are in the universe.
My favorite film star's Bridget Bardot. She's the queen, but she wants to be in radio. So she starts a podcast with her friends, and the terrorists try to stop her, but she beats them in the end.